Let's talk about black tiger shrimp. In the aquaculture world, they call it black gold. And for good reason. It's this venture that promises huge returns, but man, it is also a high-stakes gamble. One wrong move, and your entire investment could be gone. So what is it that makes this industry so tempting, but also so incredibly treacherous?
And that's really the big question, isn't it? Why is this one of the most promising, but also one of the most challenging ventures out there? To figure this out, we're not just going to stare at spreadsheets, no. We're diving into some hard-won, in-the-field experience to really get a handle on the amazing potential and the very real dangers that every single farmer faces.
All right, so first things first, let's talk about the promise of shrimp farming. We're going to break down what makes it so appealing and figure out exactly why farmers are so drawn to this particular species.
Okay, so when you look at it on paper, it really seems like the perfect recipe for success, right? I mean, you've got strong market demand, which is huge. They fetch a really high price. Plus, the shrimp themselves are pretty resistant to disease. And to top it all off, you have this really well-defined culture period, about 120 to 160 days. That makes planning your business so much easier. It honestly looks like a can't-miss opportunity.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Here's the reality check. Just having a promising species is not a golden ticket. That path from potential to profit, it is absolutely loaded with real-world challenges. We're talking stuff that requires serious technical skill and top-notch farm management. This is really where the textbook ends and the tough, gritty work begins.
So, let's start with the things you can't always control. We're talking about external threats, those shocks that come from outside the farm and can wipe out all your hard work in, like, an instant.
And here's a gut-wrenching example of just that, from an expert in the field, ENSIC Omar bin Othman. He shared how a natural disaster, in this case extreme flooding, hit his farm. It completely wrecked the water quality in his pond, and it led to the death of every single shrimp. A total, devastating loss. It just goes to show you how incredibly vulnerable these operations are to the whims of nature.
Okay, now for a totally different kind of threat. This one isn't from nature, it's from people. And here's the kicker. You might think your biggest security risk is some random thief trying to sneak in at night, but a lot of the time, the real danger is on the inside. Someone leaking your harvest schedule? That just creates a huge, flashing green light for thieves.
So how on earth do you fight that? Well, the strategy is all about creating uncertainty. It's a two-step process. First, you lock down the information. Keep that harvest schedule on a need-to-know basis, and very few people need to know. Second, you have to manage the physical evidence. The second that harvest is done, those nets get taken down and hidden away. That way, to anyone watching from the outside, it just looks like a normal day. It makes it so much harder for anyone to know when to strike.
Okay, we've talked about threats from the outside. Now, let's dive right into the pond itself. This is where the real battle happens, the battle in the water. And believe me, how you manage this core system is absolutely the make-or-break factor for your entire operation.
And as our expert, Anchik Omar, points out, it's often the newcomers, the inexperienced or young shrimp farmers who make these critical oversights. Maybe they just don't have the deep technical knowledge for pond management yet, or they don't monitor the water quality as obsessively as they should, and that can lead to disaster fast.
So take a look at these 5 critical parameters. You've got pH, salinity, dissolved oxygen, ammonia, and alkalinity. Every single one is vital. Take ammonia, for example. It's super toxic to shrimp, even in tiny amounts. But here's the most important takeaway, the thing you have to remember. It's not just about measuring these things. The real secret sauce is keeping them stable. That stability is what keeps disease out of your pond.
Now this is such a key piece of wisdom. You can have all the fancy, expensive sensors in the world, but honestly, your best diagnostic tool is right there in the water. It's the shrimp themselves. Just by watching how they behave, every single day, you can catch problems way before they spiral out of control.
So what exactly are you looking for? Well, here's a classic warning sign. If you see your shrimp all gathering up around the edges of the pond, that is a huge red flag. It's basically them shouting at you that something is wrong with the water quality, most likely that there isn't enough oxygen. That is an early warning sign you absolutely cannot afford to ignore.
Okay, next up, let's talk about the system you're using. Because it's not just about managing the water day to day, it's about making a critical choice right from the get-go, choosing an environment that actually fits the biology of the shrimp you're trying to raise. And when it comes to black tiger shrimp, this is a really important distinction.
Pond culture is the way to go. Tank culture, not so much. And you might be asking, why? Well, it's because these shrimp literally need the soil. The bottom of the pond is full of microorganisms that are essential for their digestion and their health. A sterile, clean tank just doesn't have that. On top of that, you can't even stock tanks densely enough to make it commercially viable. The bottom line is, the system just doesn't work for this particular animal.
All right, so we've covered a lot, right? We've talked about the species, the outside threats, the water, the system, but the final piece of this whole puzzle, the thing that really decides who wins and who loses, it goes beyond all of that.
Because in the end, it's not the species.
And it's not the system either.
No, it is the farmer. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the human element. The success or failure of a shrimp farm hinges more on the person running it than any other single thing.
So, what's in this winning farmer's toolkit? Well, it's that practical, hands-on experience that you just can't get from reading a book. It's having the personal discipline to do those checks every single day. It's being proactive, managing things before they become problems, not just reacting to them. It's having that sharp eye to spot trouble when it's just starting. And honestly, it's having a genuine interest, a passion for what you're doing. That's what gives you the edge.
Look, knowing all of this stuff is a great start, but the real question comes down to execution. It's one thing to know you should check the water quality every day. It's a completely different thing to actually have the discipline to go out there and do it. Day in, day out, no excuses. And that right there is the true challenge. That's the ultimate key to actually harvesting that black gold.